Hey guys, EDDBUD here and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a viewer requested comparison video for you between the Reebok Floatride Run Fast 2 and the New Balance FuelCell Rebel. Viewer Joshua Gwilliam requested this one, a comparison between these two very light, higher paced shoes from Reebok and New Balance. I of course have duly obliged. Enjoy, Josh. So the weight of these two shoes is pretty close. It's about 245 grams for the Run Fast 2 and about 218 grams for the FuelCell Rebel. 8mm drop in the Run Fast 2 and a 6mm drop in the FuelCell Rebel. Both of these shoes are quite easily obtainable right now and retail prices are about £110, though I do often see both of these shoes on sale for quite considerable discounts. So to the upper first. There's more of a stretch upper throughout the FuelCell Rebel. It kind of starts here but it heads all the way through the shoe and you've then got this very light, very thin mesh over the top of the forefoot. I say forefoot, it kind of runs here from the midfoot really. And then you've got this pattern stitching to provide a bit of extra structure to the upper. Otherwise it's just like a sock really, there's not an awful lot else to it. I think if somebody were to step on your foot in a hobnail boot, and you'd know all about it if you were in the Rebels. There's not an awful lot of protection there. You've got these red hardened lace loops on each side of the shoe here, which help to pull the laces over the top of your foot, again providing some type of lockdown. For me, I've got to be honest, I felt that the upper was a little restrictive on the FuelCell Rebel. I really do wish I'd gone up half a size. I think I fall just in between an 11 and an 11.5. I need an 11.25 size, that's what I need. But that's obviously just completely ridiculous. For me, there was always a feeling of the Zoomfly Flyknit with this shoe. It's very similar in terms of feel, although you've got a much more stretchy situation here in the heel. The heel counter's really small on this shoe, so do be aware of that if you suffer from heel slippage in other shoes. There really isn't an awful lot to it. If I bend the heel down, you can see where it ends. It doesn't come round the back of your heel very much on sides either. As I said, it's sock-like with the tongue just being made up of the upper material itself. It's kind of like an Elvis style all in one. I could call this shoe Elvis, couldn't I? Yeah, that would be good. There's a very different, more traditional style upper on the Run Fast 2. Mesh-like, breathable, with a lot more rigidity throughout it. They're in totally different categories really in terms of the upper. Certainly this one's more suited to providing some good lockdown on top of the midsole, whereas the FuelCell Rebel's just all out as light as possible. Because this is kind of like a sports car. This one kind of reminds me of one of those project concept cars that you sometimes see, where everything's just completely weight relieved. I think I do prefer the comfort of the upper in the Run Fast 2, but there's something very exciting and characterful about the FuelCell Rebel's upper as well. Once I'd got some better laces for the FuelCell Rebel, because the ones that come with it are just so long, it's unreal. I really managed to achieve a much better lockdown in that shoe. So I think the featherweight nature of the upper here and this trace fibre on the sides of the shoe make this one the winner in the upper category. Onto midsole next. The protrusion on the side of the FuelCell Rebel's midsole certainly is a real oddity. It's a real maverick feature. I've not really seen anything like that on any other manufacturer's shoes. It's certainly a Rebel, but with a cause. And it certainly does feel propulsive on foot. When you hit that midfoot or forefoot area, you can really build up some incredible pace. This is a very light shoe. It's around about the same weight as the Vaporfly 4% Flyknit. It does say that there's a two-part midsole here, and it does comment about the foam. I can't really see any joins here, whether they are referring to the use of this TPU section here on the bottom of the midsole, I don't know. It certainly is a very bouncy shoe. There's lots of energy return there, although I wouldn't suggest it's spongy in any way. There is some responsiveness, not one that works when going at lower paces though. It really does feel somewhat awkward. A very light foam in this one, the Floatride stuff. Again, it's soft but yet responsive underfoot. There's an EVA top layer. People keep saying it's an EVA cage. I'm not entirely sure really. It certainly is a lot stiffer in this blue section. Then underneath that you have more of a soft Pebax sort of Zoom X type feel to it. There's really not an awful lot of information. I'm just going on how it feels. But the shoe can really move. It's certainly not too squashy in the midfoot as your foot strikes the floor. For me, this is really tough. It's an out-and-out tie really between the two midsoles. I'd suggest perhaps the Run Fast 2 would be a little bit more forgiving on your feet over a longer distance, but there's so little in it. I'm going to call this one a tie on midsole. Outsole next. So the Rebel here has this space-aged outsole. It's like transparent, although it only really stays like that for a little while. Once you start using it, it takes on this yellowy tinge, very similar to what you get on the bottom of a pair of Jordan 5s after some outdoor use. They just start to yellow a little bit. You can see that visible TPU piece here underneath the almost transparent outsole. I found the outsole somewhat slippery actually in very wet conditions. Certainly if you're on some smooth surfaces, it can be really slippery. I always found it a shoe I kind of feared using in the wet actually. Certainly one to avoid using if you go anywhere near some metal storm covers. On gravel and densely packed stone paths, I found the traction really good though, although it does come with a really odd issue that you get loads of debris and muck building up in the outsole, and some of it you just can't remove. It seems to sort of embed itself and get underneath the outsole itself. Just gets caught up in all these holes here. There's loads of it in there. So you can expect the shoe to take on a little extra weight over time. The outsole on the Run Fast 2 has these multi-directional lugs. It's a full-length rubber outsole here. It really does grip and latch onto the road very well. I found the midsole and outsole section of this shoe to work really well in tandem. Interestingly enough, the outsole pattern is actually inversed in this heel section here. You see you've got all these protrusions here and then it actually inverts here. There is some exposed midsole there as per the FuelCell Rebel, but there are sections where the midsole's completely blocked off and you've just got rubber. Certainly in terms of traction, it's got to be a win for the Run Fast 2 in this category. The outsole's lightweight enough to make it still nimble on foot, and I've just found it far more of a versatile shoe up to this point in terms of grip and traction. Onto value now. As I mentioned earlier, both of these shoes retail for around about £110 over here in the UK, though I found them both to be reduced down to £80 on several occasions recently. The Rebel actually even less. I did see it pop up a while ago for about £60. Around about 80 miles into the Rebel, and it does show a few signs of wear, some aesthetic but mainly some wear on the outsole. That midsole foam's still feeling really great though. The slightly heavier Run Fast 2 still presents some good value though. I think the shoe's really well put together, a good quality piece of footwear. Again, there's very little between these two shoes, though I do feel that I'd probably be happier running a half marathon, for example, in the Run Fast 2 rather than the Rebel. There's just a bit more support there in terms of the upper. I think it's that little bit more versatile of a shoe than the FuelCell Rebel. I think if you're looking for a fast 5 or 10k shoe for racing and training, then the FuelCell Rebel might be your best option. If you're after something though with that Pebax midsole for tempo or threshold efforts, then I think the Reebok Floatride Run Fast 2 could be the one. For some interval training and working on those mile repeats though, I don't think there's much that can touch the FuelCell Rebel. It's so light, it does really give you that explosive feeling. I've used it many times for sessions like that, but do be aware it doesn't feel that great when you drop the pace down on those recovery parts in between your intervals. Just means you have to run fast all the time. I'd say for sessions incorporating more substantial distance intervals and some longer recovery parts, then the Run Fast 2 might be a better option. Very little between these two shoes. This one's a little heavier, but they're both around the same price. I would say that I do think it's probably worth going up a half size for some people in the New Balance FuelCell Rebel. Might just give you that extra little bit of room at the very end of the shoe. Just feels like it's quite a narrow shoe to me. I hope you've enjoyed that comparison today, guys. I've tried to include as many of my observations and experiences in both shoes as I can. If you've got any more comments or questions, please put them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Time for a very quick musical interlude. I've been listening to Neil Young again. This is one of my favourites, his live album, Live Rust. This is one of those live albums where almost every single track's a winner, but obviously Powderfinger, Cortez the Killer, and Like a Hurricane show Neil Young with Crazy Horse at their very best. There's some explosive guitar work. At points Neil Young almost makes the guitar sound like it's crying out in pain. Really good backing vocals as well from the band, and it's just one you really need to check out. I'm quite lucky, I've got a couple of copies of this on vinyl. Don't ask. But this is a fantastic album. Do check it out. Live Rust by Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Okay, that's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching through to the very end of the video. I would very much appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button and click the bell for notifications below so you know when new videos are launched. Hit that like button and share this video with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing